Boy, still taking a look at timing and scoring here. Chris Miller has not given up any ground whatsoever to Wyatt Gooden. Now, I would have expected Wyatt Gooden perhaps to start opening up a little bit of a lead by now. Perhaps just maintain that 1.5 second gap, but that is a close gap to maintain. So Chris Miller there in the catbird seat at the smallest Gooden mistake.
Looks like the feed might have went down momentarily. We're back up. Sorry about that. So,
bummer. Did we maintain audio just out of curiosity?
Not sure. So following Sean Johnson in 23rd, Doug Tevitt 24th. William Harris. That Porsche's seen better days. He's running back in 25th. Adam Green, 26th. Charles Huffstetler having some issues. Kenny Duvall in 28th. And looks like that's it for your running order. Looking back up front, Wyatt Gooden continues to lead this race. Slowly starting to pull away from Chris Miller, who sits second. That gap
just now has opened
seconds.
up. Yeah, it just now opened up, so I suspect a Chris Miller mistake here over the course of the last lap.
Yeah, the last lap was almost a 25 from Chris Miller, and he was running 24s, pretty consistent, low 24s. Wyatt is running high 23s so far. We're on lap 10, apparently.
Some consistent laps from Gooden, fast ones as well, as that gap continues to increase.
Yeah, on lap 11, so we ought to be a little more than halfway to the pit window.
Rodriguez continues to hold off Jeremy Evans. Evans was out ahead of Rodriguez earlier on, but Rodriguez able to get around Evans for that third and final podium position. It's still early, but Evans still hanging on to the back of Rodriguez, not letting him get away, as Evans takes it a bit wide, manages to keep it, put it back on track without issue. And Paul Darling also continued to run well.
Now, unfortunately, Paul Heeb, it looks like he has just taken a DNF here from this event. So Paul Heeb out from the 11th position.
It's a little surprising, the amount of attrition we've seen so far. We've got 34 start. As Evans dealing with some lap traffic. Get further back, Andres Preto, Eric Enge, duking it out, Corey Ruin and Roberto Lacroix. Now these guys are having quite the battle. Gerald Livingston as well in the mix. Wow, this is really close for that 9th position.
Yeah, and should be no surprise for Corey or Roberto. Those guys have been running closer the last couple, 3 weeks. It seems like they've been fighting for position. Probably about 3 hours worth of track time now. They should know each other pretty well.
I'll pull with Gerald. So if you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of North American Grand Prix iRacing RUF WEC Championship from Brands Hatch. It's the 5th round of the season. I'll say it's been pretty quite the successful season for yourself there, Scott. Done a great job.
Oh, thank you to everybody's who's participating in racing. You know, they deserve all the credit. We've got a lot of great racers out here, a lot of enthusiasm, and they're here every week doing battle.
So this battle continues to rage on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to see if team orders here have anything to do with the order here of Corey and Roberto. Roberto might run out of patience here any second if it has anything to do with what's going on here with our positions, huh? Yeah, Gerald's breathing down the neck pretty good.
Yeah.
Put a lot of pressure on.
Yeah, no doubt. That always gets a guy a little anxious, teammate or no, and he's got traffic behind for sure.
Oh, and we have traffic ahead.
Ooh, a bit of a incident there. It looks like one of them. As one of the Porsches goes off. Oh, heavy into the tire barrier on its roof. I'm not sure who that was. Wow. That was quite the moment there. Livingston could have taken advantage of that, but played it a bit conservative there and thought better of making the move on Lacroix. Lacroix had to check up for that lap car. So looking further back here. Eric Estes in 11th, currently he's got a 3-second gap over Dave Toro. Dave Toro in the 12th spot. He's got 6 seconds, nearly 7 seconds up on James Land. So these guys back here have spread out a little bit. Lamb, however, under some pressure from Eric Hafner. Those two about a second apart. Watch Hafner try and close the gap on Lamb. Hafner's got nearly 14-second lead over Josh Daniels in 15th.
Yeah, and just right behind those guys, Milt Minter, Ray Nelson, and Daniel Robert, all in a very close fight as well for the 16th position.
I'll go with Daniel Robert.
And Eric started out in 18th and has made it up to 11th. Eric's a very consistent racer. He's an old NAGP member, long before our iRacing series here, but very consistent most weeks. Wouldn't surprise me. He gets up in the top 10 fairly easily.
On board with Daniel Robert. Looks like he might have a run on Nelson. Got better of it. So these guys really having a great battle here for that 16th spot.
Yeah, and while you watch that battle, I have to mention one more toward the front. Over the final podium position, Rodriguez, Evans, and Darling all now running nose to tail for that 3rd spot.
Just picked up that battle. As we right along with Paul Darling. Paul with a bit of a moment there, just putting a wheel off in the grass, nearly turned the car around, but managed to save it.
Boy, such a fine edge.
It is. You lose a bit of time there to Evans, but not too much.
Yeah, particularly in this this RUF challenge car. Very, boy, you can get to the edge, but one little inch over it, and it's over. What do you think about this these cars, Scott?
Oh, I absolutely love them. But yeah, they give you a sort of a sense of safety at some point, and it can bite you. There's no question. As well, you know, the fuel tank is on the front of his car. We've mentioned that before. So as we get near the light fuel here, the setup changes quite a bit. So that can affect a lot of these little slow exits right before our pit stops here.
So that gap out front between Gooden and Miller now nearly 5 seconds. We're on board with Rodriguez, who's doing his best to hold off Evans. This battle has been going on for pretty much the whole race so far.
Yeah, and quickly to that Gooden-Miller battle there at the front. I think Miller has actually done a very good job. I think at this point he knows he's just a little bit off the... Uh-oh.
Oh, we'll get it going. Hold on.
Oh, okay, feed went down again. Anyway, I was going to say, Chris Miller really doing a very good job being a little off the pace. I think he knows that he's having to just conserve whatever time he can to Wyatt Gooden and still hope for a little bit of a Gooden mistake, but holding very good pace despite being a little bit off of the front runner. Consistency, so important.
Well, and we'll see what kind of pit magic these guys have. You know, we'll see what happens here after our stops. There is time to be had there, or mistakes.
Right, right.
Oh, just trying to get back in here. My game went down. Stand by, fellas.
Well, fortunately here in this iRacing broadcast booth, as opposed to the GTR2 broadcast booth, we have the opportunity to do that. So pictures won't be down for too long. And not too many updates at the moment as we await the pit stop rotation to start. And
here we go.
Yeah, in fact, it's Chris Miller, I think, who has elected to come in first, just now exiting the pits, actually. We missed him on his in-lap.
Yeah, I missed that. He's a little early.
Yeah, it does seem like, but in any event, electing maybe to take off some of that heat, get on some new shoes, maybe gain some time on Wyatt Gooden here through pit stop.
And there might be a little traffic strategy as far as that's concerned. That might give him a little cleaner air as we close in on the lap cars here.
All right, we're back up. Sorry about that little glitch.
Ooh, I think Jeremy Evans is out of this race. Saw his name pop up on timing and scoring as out, and I don't believe that he is in the pit lane for repairs.
Rodriguez into the pit lane. All right, Gooden remains out on track. Paul Darling has moved up to the second spot. So Chris Miller has rejoined in 11, so we have to keep an eye on Chris. What are we looking at delta time in and out of the pit lane here, Scott?
Probably somewhere between about 20 and 40 seconds, depending. That early stop might, even without tires, it's going to take a little longer to fuel here.
So Prato,
Jeremy had a blown motor.
Ouch.
Yeah, he's done. Can't repair that.
So Prato moves up to third while these pit rotations take place. Eric Enge behind him in fourth. Behind him, Corey Rowan.
Yeah, indeed, and Eric Enge actually yet to stop, but I've been noting his progress up through the field. It's been a very solid run here for Eric Enge halfway through this race.
So we saw Roberto Lacroix putting a lot of pressure on his teammate earlier on. That gap has Call it back a little bit for Lacroix. He's 2 seconds off his teammate. Rowan is starting to put the pressure on Edge for that 3rd spot. So Rodriguez has pitted, Miller has pitted. Prieto has yet to pit. Gooden has yet to pit.
Yeah, we have seen this in the past. Wyatt Gooden typically in our 4 events so far has elected to take it much deeper than the majority of the field until his pit stop. So I guess we're going to see that again tonight.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, Brad, as these guys have tend to pit a lot sooner than Wyatt does. Wyatt tends to stretch out his stint. It's Chris Miller. Probably not what he wanted to see. He comes out right behind Estes. Well, he just made the move on Estes, as Estes made a little bit of a mistake. So Miller takes over that 7th position. I'll tell you what, Rodriguez with a nice pit stop. He's only a couple seconds back of Miller. It's going to be interesting once these pit stops cycle through where these guys end up, but it's a great stop by Rodriguez.
Yeah, hard to say if it was a good stop by Rodriguez or a bad one for Miller, but in any event, he's well and truly back intact. In contact, excuse me.
So Wyatt with a 28-second lead over Prieto, who is in 2nd by way of pit stops. So Gooden continues out on track. He's going to stay out.
Yeah, another guy we've mentioned has not made his pit stop yet, but Gerald Livingston is actually putting in a very fine effort. Some 30 seconds now off arrears of Wyatt Gooden, but still nonetheless a very good drive through the first part of this race for Gerald Livingston.
Gensch in 3rd, Rowan behind him, Lacroix. These guys have yet to pit. Gerald Livingston now into the pit lane, so he's elected to make his stop at the 30-minute mark. That'll move Chris Miller to 6th. And that gap between Miller and Rodriguez now only 2.3 seconds.
Yeah, Miller just some 10 points off of Rodriguez in the overall point standings. No doubt he wants to keep that position. Alfonso Rodriguez is just looking to get back toward the top of this championship fight, putting in a good effort so far.
Augustus in 8th. Paul Darling 9th. So Paul Darling has pitted. Darling with the 16.8-second pit stop. If I'm reading the times correctly. Dave Toro now in 10th. Dave, I don't believe, has pitted yet. James Lamb behind him in 11th. Josh Daniels in 12th. Livingston rejoins in 13th. Minter Jr. 14th. So Milt continues his strong showing here tonight. Ray Nelson be right behind him in 15th. Doesn't look like either of these guys have pitted yet. James Lamb and Eric Estes have now gone into the pit lane, and they're away. Rob Taylor also in this fight. He is in 15th. Taylor having a pretty decent run here tonight. He started further back. Frank Nichols. Ooh, Frank takes it wide. And he's back on track, so he loses a spot. And Daniel Robert now all over the back of Frank Nichols. Oh, Nichols pulls it into the pit lane. Going through here, looks like Eric Hafner in 19th. He's pitted. Sean Johnson has pitted as well, so he is currently in 20th.
Got Eric Inge just now leaving the pit lane, rejoins the 9th position.
Doug Tevick in 21st. William Harris 22nd. Porsche's all banged up. Adam Green 23rd. Paul Heed 24th. So Paul Heed, the last car running here. Back up front, Wyatt Gooden continues to lead this race. Has yet to pit, coming up on some lap traffic. It's by without issue. Breto has remained out. He's currently 29 seconds back of Gooden. Corey Rowan has yet to pit as well. Keep an eye on him. Currently running in P3. The pit. Does not. His teammate stays out as well. So Chris Miller, 48 seconds behind Wyatt Gooden.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to work out, Al. I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think Chris Miller's really doing enough on track here with those new tires to make a lot of inroads on Wyatt Gooden at this point, but we'll see. Again, as Scott mentioned, you never know. A little mistake, a little bobble there in the pit stops for Wyatt Gooden. Perhaps that gap can close back down, but for now it doesn't look like Miller's going to pose a serious threat if all goes well for Gooden.
Yeah, and I don't believe he's going to take tires out there in front either. Not after going this long. All he needs is a splash of fuel here.
Yeah, good point.
So that gap between Miller and Rodriguez has increased slightly to about 3.5 seconds. So Rodriguez quickly losing touch to Miller, but still good run for Rodriguez. He's got 6 seconds up on Paul Darling. We know Paul Darling early prior to stops was in tight with Rodriguez and Evans. We know Evans is out with a mechanical failure, but so I believe Rodriguez had just a Tremendous stop here to get out close to Miller and put some time between him and Paul Darling.
Yeah, indeed, it's looking that way. So David Toro has come into the pits from the 7th position. The top 4 have yet to pit. So too Minter and Nelson, excuse me. A few drivers left to finish up that pit stop rotation yet.
Rumble with Paul Darling with an 8-second gap over Eric Enge in 8th. And Enge, he's got nearly 20 seconds up on Gerald Livingston in 9th. Dave Toro into the pits, you mentioned him.
And it looks like Minter as well has come into the pits just now.
So Livingston with 20-second gap over, looks like now Eric Estes. So most of the field has pitted, just a handful of guys who have yet to pit.
Yeah, we're waiting on Roberto and Corey. It looks as though Chris Miller will have them in the pits. I'm not sure about the next one. Yeah, Alfonso's going to be breathing down their neck. I'm not sure if he'll get it done or not.
Yeah, of course, Rodriguez cycled in from the 2nd, 3rd spot. Third.
I'm not sure where he was, Brad.
Yep, he was running 3rd. And finally, Preto is into the pits from the 2nd position.
Corey's
right behind. Yep. So interesting. We had the chance to talk with Andres Preto a little bit before this race. Did not get the opportunity to put a lot of laps in around here, but he was also not quite up on his iRacing pit stops as well. So Andres Preto maybe a little shaky in the pit lane here. We'll have to watch where that shakes out.